Now we'll turn to section 13 in your harmony, dealing with the presentation. And it's a situation where there'll be two specific encounters. Now this is Luke's account, so it's going to be focusing on women as well. And we're covering Luke chapter 2, verses 22 through 38. So following his circumcision that happened on the 8th day of life, the next recorded event in the life of the Messiah is the presentation occurring when Yeshua was 40 days old. And here again, Luke shows two of his main concerns, Gentiles and women, but also a bit of his other concern because the event takes place in a temple compound, so they have to travel from Bethlehem to Jerusalem. And once again, the parents of Yeshua proved faithful in obedience to the Mosaic law, a point Luke makes in verses 22 and 23. And according to that law, a mother who gave birth to a girl was reckoned to be ceremonially unclean for a period of 80 days. Leviticus 12, verses 1 through 8. If she gave birth to a baby boy, she was reckoned ceremonially unclean for 40 days. After this interval, the mother needed to undergo purification, a purification ritual to be ritually cleansed from the uncleanness. So Miriam had given birth to a son, a boy, and therefore the event described in the verses about to look at occurred when Yeshua was 40 days old. According to Jewish records, the events surrounding the presentation of Yeshua would have taken place at the east gate of the court, known as Nicanor Gate. And the first purpose of the presentation was to deal with the aforementioned purification of the mother so that she would be no longer ceremonially unclean. So after the days of her purifying, in keeping with Leviticus chapter 12, verse 6, and these days were fulfilled, the mother had to bring to the priest at the door of the sanctuary a lamb and a pigeon or a dove. If she could not afford a lamb, 2 young pigeons or 2 young doves could be offered instead in verse 8. And the second purpose of the presentation was the consecration or redemption of the firstborn male, in keeping with Exodus chapter 13, verses 1, 2, and verses 11 through 16. Now, any male animal or human being that opened the womb was to be set apart unto the Lord. This is the rule of Exodus 13, verse 12. And while the scriptures related this commandment to the 10th plague, during which God spared the life of the Jewish firstborn, the tradition became that the firstborn male should then spend his life serving the Lord in a special way. Eventually, the special duty of the firstborn was handed over to the tribe of Levi, which meant that since Yeshua was Miriam's firstborn son, she would have paid the redemption price on this occasion. In order to achieve purification for Miriam, she and her husband offered a pair of turtle doves or 2 young pigeons in verse 24. What this shows is their economic status. Now, these were 2 members of the house of David, but the house of David had become economically poor. On the economic scale, they were poor, and the law only allowed the offering of 2 birds if one could not afford anything better. And that point is made in Leviticus chapter 12, verse 8. And so Miriam and Joseph were poor, and this confirmed what was predicted in 2 Old Testament prophecies. Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1 predicted that the Messiah would appear only when the mighty house of David has been reduced to what it was in Jesse's day, a poor family in Bethlehem. Isaiah pictured a mighty tree that had been felled and with just a stump remaining. Only then would a branch begin to grow out of its roots and produce fruit. As the Messiah in this passage is referred to as the root of Jesse. Only after the mighty tree, the house of David, has been felled and reduced to a stump, reduced to what it was in Jesse's day, would the messianic branch appear. And so it came. Likewise, Amos chapter 9, verse 11 predicted the Messiah would appear only when the mighty house of David has been reduced to a broken down hut. And by this time, that was exactly what had occurred. And because they could not afford anything more expensive animals for sacrifice, offering only 2 birds in place of lambs. Joseph and Miriam offered 2 birds, one for a sin offering, one for the burnt offering, revealing their economic status. On this occasion, they had 2 separate encounters. And Luke recorded that Miriam and Joseph encountered 2 special people, and these encounters would have happened either in the court of the Gentiles or the court of the women, because as a woman, Miriam would not be able to go any further past that point of the temple compound.
The full length of this particular video presentation is 17 minutes. This brief sample should help to demonstrate the depth and quality of these teachings and recordings. There are 45 video lectures over 10 hours of teaching content for this course, Yeshua, The Life of Messiah, Part 1. To order this or another online course, visit us at www.ariocollege.com.